So AmaZulu King Misuzulu KaZwelithini has given his blessing for the 6-part series Shaka Ilembe, which is set to be released in 2023. The over 200 million rand production tells the story of the AmaZulu monarchy, tracing it all the way back to the 1700s, as well as the history of one of the largest nations on the African continent. As a start, my colleague Ziyanda Ngxobo was actually on the movie set with the king this past week. Take a look at what they got up to.
Taking over the baton from his late father, King Gugu Mazibuko, Zulu, the soon-to-be coronated AmaZulu monarch has visited the set of Shaka Ilembe. King Misuzulu KaZwelithini is said to have given his blessing for a better portrayal of the Zulu nation's history because the famous 1986 Shaka Zulu production featuring celebrated late actor Henry Cele had some incorrect information displayed as facts.
Program Shaka Zulu leyo qala ngoba yona yayiqoshwe ikakhulukazi abantu abamhlophe ababeyifakela nje okwa kuyizinto ngaleso sikhathi ababebona ukuthi badinga ukuthi beyifake uthola ukuthi bese kuyashayisana ngokwesimo somlando.
All right, that's just a glimpse of what you can expect. You can catch that entire exclusive interview with the king right here on Newzroom Afrika channel 405 tomorrow. But for now, let's unpack the significance, really, of these stories and the importance of telling the stories themselves accurately. And for that, let's bring in the productions director and producer, that's Angus Gibson, as well as UKZN's cultural expert, Dr. Gugu Mazibuko, who both join us via our video link this morning. To both our guests, thanks for your time. It's lovely to have you on the program. Angus, perhaps let me begin with you. There's an important context to this particular production, and Ziyanda Ngxobo has already highlighted it in that package that we'll play tomorrow. The previous AmaZulu King, Gugu Zwelithini, Gugu Zwelithini Kapeguzula, I beg your pardon, actually took exception to the previous Shaka Zulu production, which starred Henry Cele, because as far as he's concerned, there wasn't always an accurate depiction of what took place. How did that inform your approach to this particular production?
I know, when we were asked to tell the story of King Shaka, immediately I think we all felt very daunted, because people have such, were so passionately invested in that character. And so the first thing we did was we took the position that we know very little and we need to find out as much as we can. So 4 years back, we embarked on a process of reading and exploring everything we possibly could that sort of told the story of King Shaka. And of course, there are many, many versions. And so what we did, in fact, was we sort of collected the many versions of the narrative and put them next to each other to try and try and sort of find out what potentially the truth was. And of course, history always, every person tells a different history. And so what we found were sort of differing versions of the same narrative. And so, of course, what one has to do is to make choices. And hopefully we are making the right choices. I mean, what we felt about the 1980 series, which in many ways there are great things about that series, but it was very much from a European gaze. It started in Europe, and it was about visitors coming here and finding this king in Africa, rather than starting in Africa and telling the narrative. In fact, I mean, white settlers met with King Shaka literally in the last 4 years of his life. So the great section of his life had no white people in it. And we wanted to tell the story from the beginning. So in fact, we start by exploring the Nguni world that Shaka grew up in. And so it is not just the telling of Shaka himself. There are many characters that we explore. So for example, Godongwana, who later becomes known as Dingiswayo, is a major character in this season, as is Zwide, King Zwide of the Ndwandwe. Yeah. So it is not just the Zulu world we explore Langeni, where Queen Nandi comes from, the Mtetwa, the Ndwandwe, the Hlubi. We in fact even travel down to Mozambique, where we meet with the Mabudu. Right. So it is a very vast landscape that we explore.
That makes it even more of a daunting task. I wonder if you feel you have enough time. Dr. Mazibuko, let me bring you into the discussion. Typically, when we focus on, nations like the AmaZulu nation, which I imagine is one of the largest on the continent, there's always going to be contested versions of what took place in history. But more than that, part of the history is going to be oral and not necessarily documented. In the space that you work in, I mean, how easy is it for you to also track what actually has taken place and ways through which we could make that come alive in creative processes like the production that's currently filming?
Good morning, Ayanda, Angus, and viewers. Thank you for inviting me. This is really exciting, and we are looking forward to this series, especially because there will be accuracy, and a lot of research has been done. We are excited because a lot has been written about King Shaka in literature, and he was portrayed in different ways by different writers and filmmakers. However, as AmaZulu, we are an oral society. So stories were told from generation to generation, much as some of them were not written down, but we know them. We know who King Shaka was. We know what he did as a unifier and the builder of the nation, as a powerful, great king. So this series, we are looking forward to them because we know exactly that his life brings in African worldview. Therefore, his life is an inspiration even to future leaders, because he was a legendary name giver. He was the unifier. He is the one who formed isiZulu language, which is one of the mega languages of the African Union. So we are looking forward, and we are grateful that the king also gave his blessing to this great work that we are going to see.
So many more questions, Angus, to be asked. Let me try to squeeze them in. How much of the production did the king actually see? I mean, we understand part of the filming is currently taking place, but going through a script for a man like the AmaZulu King might be quite time-consuming. So we know he's given his stamp of approval, but how much was he able to glean into what's going to be the final product?
Well, I think that, obviously, a visit to the set, you see a fragment of what is happening. Right. We are shooting for many months, so he dipped in. But an interesting thing is a person that we at BOM have worked with for many years is a man called Nhlanhla Mtaka, who was very close to King Zwelithini, and in fact worked alongside him, and is working together with the present king. So by way of Mtaka, I think both the present king and his father have a very clear sense of what our intention is and the choices that we have made. So I think he is much better informed than a person who simply visits a film set. And interestingly, Nhlanhla Mtaka is a person very invested in the praises and in oral testimony. So he has, in the 4 years that we have been researching, been very active in bringing those elements into the telling.
Sure. And very quickly, you know, what this moment has also done, Angus, is again shone a spotlight on the kind of licenses that should be given to creatives who want to tell the stories of communities they don't form a part of. And this is not just speaking about the AmaZulu nation. No matter how you dice it, you know, people who are not part of the LGBTQI community wanting to tell their stories,
Sure.
people who are not black wanting to tell black people's stories, etc., etc. Your own reflections, because part of what you need to do is to make creative decisions.
I feel like, well, first of all, I mean, this film is being made very much by a collective. You know, research and conversation about which way to go has been very much at the heart of the process of the last 4 years. And also, as I said earlier, we always take the position that we know very little and we need to listen and absorb and find out as much as possible. That has always been the position with BOM. If we go back to Yizo, at the time, you know, our position was, if you are not 16 years old and in the school at this moment, you do not know what is happening, and we have to go out and find out. So that is always our position. And we always work in a collaborative process. So there are many voices that have informed the choices that we have made on this series.
Sure. A lot of anticipation ahead of this production. Thanks very much indeed to both of us for speaking to us. Such a pity we didn't have more time because there's so much more to unpack. But for now, let me appreciate your insight and indulgence. Dr. Gugu Mazibuko is with the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She's a cultural expert, researcher in that institution. Angus Gibson, the creative director and producer of Shaka Ilembe, set to be released in 2023. A lot of eyes watching, and hopefully we'll have good things to say once that takes place.